Despite the potential health risks associated with red meat and the environmental impact of factory farming, Americans still love their hamburgers. We consume about 50 billion yearly, but still, some burger chains keep shutting down shop, making us wonder if they might definitely be closing for good. If Steak 'n Shake is your go-to milkshake spot and burger chain, you better enjoy them while they last, as the chain seems to be shutting down locations nationwide. Steak 'n Shake has been around since 1934, when it started with a mission to serve high-quality hamburgers, with beef ground on site from prime cuts like round, sirloin, and T-bone, and milkshakes. The coronavirus pandemic has taken a huge toll on this country's restaurants, but perhaps the ones that were already struggling to stay afloat have suffered the most. By 2019, Steak 'n Shake had already closed over 100 locations. Since the pandemic set in, it has closed more than 50 more, but its leadership claims it is still determined to stay afloat by accelerating its transition to counter service and drive-through rather than dine-in services. It will be interesting to see if the chain's amped up, more fast food-oriented approach helps the surviving restaurants stay in business. You'll have to find another burger chain to live out your favorite Jimmy Buffett song fantasy. Cheeseburger in Paradise officially closed its final location in September of 2020, with beginnings in 2002, launched by the namesake creator Jimmy Buffett, who has been singing the famous Cheeseburger in Paradise song since 1978. The chain boasted 38 locations across 17 states at its height. By 2012, when it was purchased by Texas company Luby's Inc., it had just 23 locations. High hopes dwindled as Luby's gradually started shutting down the restaurants over the course of 8 years of ownership. The chain closed the last of its Indiana locations in 2018, and the final location closed its doors in March of 2020 due to concerns about the COVID-19 pandemic, but didn't announce its official permanent closure until the following September. Roy Rogers is the only quick-service burger chain restaurant where you can choose between a hamburger, fried chicken, and roast beef. Unfortunately, that wide array of options might not be enough to keep this long-running East Coast and Mid-Atlantic staple above water. At its peak, Roy Rogers had over 600 locations, but that has dropped to fewer than 50. 7 locations closed in 2019, despite efforts to revitalize since a failed attempt by Hardee's to buy the chain and convert the restaurants to more Hardee's locations. It had either closed or sold off most of the locations. The comeback efforts centered around appealing to a younger generation with creating a user-friendly app and increasing the variety of its offerings. The Fixin's Bar used to be a huge appeal for Roy Rogers. Guests could compile the condiments of their choice on their own burger. But now that the coronavirus pandemic has made any kind of buffet-style food service a big no-go, Roy Rogers can't rely on that as a selling point. Enjoying games and happy hour at TGI Fridays is apparently so 2010s. This once popular hamburger and bar food haven has been closing restaurants left and right for a few years now. TGI Fridays shut down over 30 of its locations in 2019, then announced planned closures of another 70 or so in the late spring of 2020. The coronavirus pandemic is partially to blame for the 2020 closures, but let's not discount the effect of millennials shunning the family dine-in chain in favor of more fast casual options and fresher food. Platters of friend appetizers just aren't doing it for the 20 and 30-somethings, and if you're going to give them burgers, they better be gourmet ones. TGI Fridays might not survive this decade, but we'll never forget those loaded potato skins and all that unnecessary flair on the walls.
Do you know what this is about?
My, flair?
Yeah?
We all knew this day would come, so you can shed your tears, but don't act too surprised. Fuddruckers' parent company, Luby's Inc., started unloading the struggling Fuddruckers restaurants to franchisees in January of 2019. But the chain itself has been seriously struggling, especially considering the coronavirus pandemic and the overall slow demise of the family dine-in chain restaurant in America. In May of 2020, there were only 40 Fuddruckers left, and 25 of those remaining burger chain restaurants weren't open because of coronavirus. The writing was sort of on the wall with with this one, and that writing isn't "Welcome to Fuddruckers." Sure enough, in the fall of 2020, Luby's announced plans to liquidate all its assets, including its remaining Fuddruckers outposts. Certain Fuddruckers are still planning to operate under localized ownership. The first Red Robin restaurant started slinging hamburgers to Seattle residents in the 1960s. Known now for its gourmet burgers and bottomless steak fries, the brand grew and became a reliable burger chain through the crossover into the 21st century. However, in recent years, its over 500 locations have started to face the strain of changing dining preferences and competition from fast casual competitors. Red Robin closed over 30 of its locations in April of 2020 amid concerns over the coronavirus pandemic. But truthfully, the burger joint was already struggling. The company capped 2018 with a whopping $10.6 million loss. A big part of their struggle was being located in so many malls, which themselves were on the decline, with more shoppers gravitating to e-commerce. Will it be the end of this longtime favorite? The Habit Burger Grill burger chain started in Santa Barbara, California in 1969, touting its char burger made with perfectly seasoned beef, alongside fresh California-grown produce. The restaurant ultimately expanded to include locations all over the world. But in August of 2019, the Habit Burger Grill shuttered all 3 of its Orlando, Florida locations. According to a statement at the time released by Habit's president and CEO Russ Bendel, the reason for the Orlando closings was solely due to poor performance in that particular market. Then, in the spring of 2020, parent company Yum Brands Inc. announced several restaurant closures for many of its popular establishments across the globe, including the Habit Burger Grill. Perhaps one of the most iconic American fast food burger chains, Burger King, home of the Whopper and that creepy King mascot, has certainly seen better days. In August of 2020, the King's parent company, Restaurant Brands International, announced plans to close hundreds of its underperforming restaurants, including Popeyes, Tim Hortons, and, yes, Burger King. Of course, Burger King had already closed over 40 of its locations due to the COVID-19 pandemic, but these more permanent closures certainly signal what a lot of bigger restaurant brands seem to be doing, using the pandemic closures as an excuse to put the nail in the coffin of restaurants that were already underperforming anyway. Although this certainly doesn't mean the end of times for Burger King, in the process of announcing the changes, RBI reps relayed that while many Burger Kings are closing, it could be an opportunity to build in more optimal locations. Check out one of our newest videos right here. Plus, even more mashed videos about your favorite restaurant chains are coming soon. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit the bell so you don't miss a single one.